Okay, so this is great. We don't have the whole thing because it's like 16 minutes, but if you haven't gone and watched this, go watch the whole fucking full thing, but we'll watch this.
We got a little highlight reel here.
This is Andrew Neil destroys, and for some reason it's in quotes. It shouldn't be. It should just be.
I think they did that because that's,
caps.
Ben Shapiro's thing.
Yeah, I understand. Because every time you see a Ben Shapiro video, it's
destroyed.
Ben Shapiro utterly destroys stupid feminist or whatever the fuck.
Ben Shapiro destroys Snowflake.
So anyway, let's go ahead and let's full screen this and let's watch And this guy that is about
highlight reel.
This is the highlight reel of Andrew Neil and Ben Shapiro. Andrew Neil is a big conservative in the UK, and Ben Shapiro at some point in this calls him a leftist and all kinds of shit, and it's embarrassing. And just watch how Ben Shapiro reacts when he's asked actual questions.
Why is it that a bill banning abortions after a woman has been pregnant for 6 weeks is not a return to the Dark Ages? What's your answer?
My answer is something called science. Human life exists at conception. It ought to be protected. Now, back to my question to you. You purport to be an objective journalist. BBC purports to be an objective down-the-middle network. It obviously is not. It never has been. And you as a journalist are proceeding to call one side of the political aisle ignorant, barbaric, and sending us back to the Dark Ages. Why don't you just say that you're on the left? Is this so hard for you? Why can't you just be honest?
Mr.
Seriously,
Shapiro,
it's a serious question.
Mr. Shapiro, if you only knew how ridiculous that statement is, you wouldn't have said it. I just
Really?
asked you a question.
And I asked you a question. You failed to answer a single one of mine. Frankly, I find this whole...
Because you're not there to interview him.
He's interviewing you on his show.
Duh.
Yeah, he doesn't have to answer your questions. You're there to be asked questions and answer them. He's there to ask questions.
He actually, I watched the full 16-minute interview to try and find out what happened, and I still don't really know why he stormed off or whatever, but this dude actually explains to him at one point the job of an interview journalist.
Right.
He's like, no, you see, it's my job to ask you questions that I may not agree with the question, but it's my job to ask you the question to see what your response is. So you respond to a wide variety of opinions and stuff. That's my job as a journalist. You know what I mean? He has to explain to Ben Shapiro what he does.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that Ben Shapiro is here promoting a book about how there's too much anger in American politics.
Right.
Everyone just needs to calm down.
Yeah, and he's so angry the whole interview.
And this entire interview, he's furiously angry. And he's furiously angry because he's being asked actual questions.
Right.
I mean, look, it's not like he's calling them gotcha questions. They're not gotcha questions. No. They're totally reasonable fucking questions that are they're critical questions. But you know what? He's asked the critical questions, and then the floor is turned to him so he can provide any answer he wants to. But instead of actually engaging in this battle, in this war of ideas that he claims is so important to him, all he can do is retreat like a fucking snowflake. Like every left-winger that he's ever criticized for not being able to take the heat.
I mean, if this old fucking soft-assed British coot is too much for you, then who are you going to go up against here, Ben? Why do you keep dodging people like Kyle Kulinski when you have the chance?
It's no wonder he dodged Kyle.
Why do you keep
this?
Why do you keep dodging young, vibrant people with minds that you want to engage with and ideas that would clash with yours? Why do you go the only time you expose yourself is to go on this sallow old sack of fucking British fucking mush? And then you can't even handle his fucking limp dick questions, you pussy?
Thing a waste of time. If you want to read the book and critique the book, why don't you read and critique the book? If you want to critique me, you can think whatever you want of me.
Why don't you
frankly,
just try and
I don't
answer
care.
the
I don't
questions?
frankly give a damn what you think of me.
Who are you now? Is this fucking Gone with the Wind all of a sudden?
I don't give a damn what you think of me.
Quite frankly, Scarlett, I don't give a damn.
It wasn't like Andrew Neil was coming at him hostilely, too. It was just he's asking him a question. He seems very calm and composed. And
Andrew Neil does not lose his cool once during this
entire interview. Did Ben Shapiro
get
some bad news or something before this interview? Because, it doesn't even seem like it's
woke up on the wrong side of the bed, maybe.
I mean, these aren't even really that difficult
the bad
questions
news,
to answer.
Because this guy is used to either going on right-wing media and having his dick sucked, or alternatively, he's used to going on American media where you never get challenged and you just get to fucking be back-patted the whole time and coddled. So he actually goes on a tough program where he's asked tough questions and then his feet are held to the fire in terms of answering them. and he totally fucking haywires his system.
Yeah, it falls
because
apart.
Ben Shapiro doesn't have anything.
He exists.
He
in
doesn't
a fog
have
of
any sort of
sycophants.
actual fucking ideas. He doesn't want to discuss ideas. He doesn't even really want to discuss politics. He just wants to go boom, pwned the left again.
Let's see Ben get angry and storm out.
I've never heard of you.
And I've never heard of you until I briefed myself for this. But that's not the issue. You have a
Then
new
why the hell
book
are you
out,
interviewing
and
me,
it's
sir?
it's an interesting book. But my
it's my
point is, your
job.
book claims that
Well, it'd be nice if you would
society-
quote it from time to time.
Your book is, well, actually, I've done so several times, and I'm about to do so again, if you would let me just finish the question. Your book
frankly, I don't
claims
think
that
this- you know what?
society
Honestly-
is turning
honestly,
its
sir.
back on Judeo-Christian values.
Yeah, this
What are
considering
those
what-
values?
considering
what are the values it's turning its back on?
I'm not inclined to continue an interview with a person as badly motivated as you as an interviewer.
He just
So I think
asked you
we're
a
done
question
here. I
with a
appreciate
direct
your time.
quotation
All
from your
right.
book.
I am not going to answer a direct question about my. So, like,
You didn't quote
his
my book. Okay, I'm going to quote your book now.
he was just asked a question about the very premise of his book that we're getting away
So he's
from
quoted the book-
Judeo-Christian values.
He's actually quoted the book twice in
Right.
the interview prior to this.
Right, and now he's quoting it again to say, okay, so what are, in your mind, these Judeo-Christian values that are being moved away from? And Ben Shapiro's response is, I'm not going to fucking be sit here and be berated, blah, blah, blah. It is a totally fair question. We found Ben Shapiro's weakness. Reasonable questions that you don't let him weasel his way out of.
Right. He does well doing college tours where like dumbasses get up in the audience because he's smarter than the average, freshman college social justice warrior. But when somebody with an actual brain in their skull asks him a direct question, he short circuits.
It's not even a ponage thing, though. I mean, that's the whole thing about this. It's not like this guy's
I
set
wa-
out to pwn Ben Shapiro.
I watched
he asked
this-
him a normal question.
I watched this thing looking for that moment, and it never happens. Ben just unravels himself. The guy asks totally reasonable questions about his book, and Ben just slowly but surely goes off the fucking rails and leaves in a huff. The dude was clearly more fucking confused than most of the people watching this are. Like, he was just like, okay, all right,
I love this closing comment here, too.
Well, thank you
If
for
he's-
your
if you're gonna
time
put it
and
in.
for showing that anger is not part of American political discourse. Now, Mr. Shapiro, we'll say goodbye.
I love that, dude.
He wrecked
got him.
Oh, he wrecked him in a sentence, dude. Eat shit, Ben Shapiro, you little fucking turd. God, he can't even handle it, dude. I feel like when I watched this for the first time, I was like you. I'm like, well, this guy must be just laying into Ben Shapiro. And it's like, another question now. It's like, what? Ben, you can't handle a question? He fucking quoted from your fucking book, dude. He's kind of bitchy like, you're not plugging my book enough. He just fucking plugged the premise of the book. All you have to do is, hey, this is what I think.
Andrew Neil is basically just like, would you like some more rope, Ben?
Yeah.
And Ben's like, yes, I would. I'm going to hang myself with it.
What a douche.
God. Well, I mean, if it's not, I mean, like, I watched Kyle Kalinske did a fucking great thing about this. I'm gonna steal a line from his video. The Emperor has no clothes, and if it's not obvious now, it's never gonna be obvious to you because, I mean, like, if you're defending Ben Shapiro as any sort of intellectual after this debacle, you're just a fucking fool, and I'm writing you off.